2 years ago this week, Saudi dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi was murdered in his country's consulate in Istanbul in a crime that shocked the world. Khashoggi was living in exile in America and writing for the Washington Post and had been lured into the consulate to deal with some paperwork for him to get married, only to find a 15-man assassination squad waiting for him. Turkish spy agency Bugs picked up audio of Khashoggi being offered the chance to return to Saudi Arabia and then recorded his brutal murder when he refused. With the assistance of the top Saudi forensic pathologist and a bone saw, the squad made sure the body was never found. Initially, the US President Donald Trump was critical of the Saudi response, but the president subsequently defended the Saudi Crown Prince against allegations he had ordered the murder, despite the CIA assessing that his involvement was extremely likely. Well, it is the subject of the latest episode of the ABC News podcast, America If You're Listening, written and hosted, of course, by Matt Bevan, who joins us now live. Matt, morning. So 2 years since Khashoggi's murder, Saudi Arabia has maintained that he was executed by what they call rogue killers who were not acting under the orders of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. What evidence is there to suggest otherwise?
Well, we've never seen the evidence that the CIA director, Gina Haspel, gathered on her fact-finding mission to Turkey. But what we have seen is the reaction of senators who were given a confidential briefing about what she had found. And you can tell a lot from the reaction that they gave. Have a look.
There's not a smoking gun, there's a smoking saw. You have to be willfully blind not to come to the conclusion that this was orchestrated and organized by people under the command of MBS, and that he was intricately involved in the demise of Mr. Khashoggi.
I have zero question in my mind that the Crown Prince, MBS, ordered the killing, monitored the killing, knew exactly what was happening, planned it in advance. If he was in front of a jury, he would be convicted in 30 minutes.
Keep in mind that Saudi Arabia is a close ally of the US, and the direction that MBS, the Crown Prince, was taking it in was seen pretty favourably in Washington. And yet these senators, who had no real skin in the game, were pretty clear about what they'd seen. Meanwhile, the President Donald Trump justified his administration's ongoing relationship with the Saudi Crown Prince like this.
They spend $400 billion in our country over the last number of years. $400 billion, that's 1.5 million jobs. And they're not ones that, unlike some countries where they want terms. They want terms and conditions. They want to say, can we borrow the money at 0% for the next 400 years? No, Saudi Arabia pays cash.
But while we've been digging into this for the podcast, we've found that there is a little bit more to it than that. The Trump family had put a lot of eggs into MBS's basket.
Before the election, though, Matt, Donald Trump was quite critical of Saudi Arabia, blaming them for the 9/11 attacks, accusing them of paying bribes in order to secure arms deals. When did all that change?
Almost immediately. The Saudis were extremely concerned when Donald Trump was elected, given all the things that he had been saying about them. So they sent a fact-finding team to the US to meet Trump administration officials, and they met with Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, and they sent back a report to Saudi Arabia saying that he was extremely inexperienced, didn't know much about the Middle East, and was really just interested in the bottom line. And so Mohammed bin Salman, who was just the defence minister at the time, saw an opportunity. He started texting with Jared Kushner, sending texts back and forth, calling each other by their first names on WhatsApp, and getting really close to each other. The New York Times reports that Jared Kushner started looking into what he could do to assist MBS to become the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, asking around in Washington to try and boost his profile. He also organised that Donald Trump's first overseas trip would be to Saudi Arabia. You might remember famous pictures of Donald Trump touching a glowing orb in Saudi Arabia on his first overseas trip. This all really paid off for MBS, and he took control of the country, purged many of his rivals. and really took a very solid grip on power there. So Jared Kushner had really tied the administration to MBS, backing him totally and aligning US foreign policy with his regional objectives, which was going great until it went really very horribly wrong.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? So that played into how the White House reacted when Khashoggi was murdered.
Yeah, as soon as Jamal Khashoggi was dead, and as soon as Saudi Arabia admitted that Jamal Khashoggi was dead and not simply missing, Jared Kushner said that he was already in touch with Mohammed bin Salman, giving him advice, telling him to be transparent and that sort of thing. Other reports have suggested that what Kushner was doing was trying to help his friend Mohammed bin Salman get through this PR catastrophe. Didn't really work though. The CIA as we mentioned, appear to have determined that MBS was responsible for the crime. The response from the Saudi royal family was to give Jamal Khashoggi's children luxurious homes and a sort of indefinite payment of more than $100,000 a year to try and make that problem go away. But MBS has kind of disappeared from his previous prominent position in Trump's orbit. You don't see him at the White House anymore. But at the beginning of 2020, when Donald Trump was considering pulling troops out of the Middle East, he still made it clear that he would continue supporting Saudi Arabia for the right price.
We're sending more to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is paying us for it. You know, we're doing something that nobody's ever done. I said to Saudi Arabia, we have a very good relationship with Saudi Arabia. I said, listen, you're a very rich country. You want more troops? I'm going to send them to you, but you've got to pay us. They're paying us. They've already deposited $1 billion in the bank.
It's a pretty extraordinary approach to US foreign policy, Lorna.
Really interesting. Before I let you go, I would like to get your thoughts actually on the New York Times article today publishing what they claim are Donald Trump's tax returns. What do you make of it?
Well, the tax returns indicate sort of what we did think from other documents that have come out about Donald Trump, which is that his businesses are not very successful at all, and that the big influxes of cash in his life have been from his father's inheritance and also from his time as the head of as the host of the reality TV show The Apprentice. Those two things have really been keeping his business afloat, and that's kind of what the tax returns indicate, that he's been making massive losses and therefore not paying all that much tax over the last 15 to 20 years.
OK, he says fake news. We will see. OK, Matt, thanks very much for that. And don't forget you can listen to this week's episode of America, if you're listening, wherever you get your podcasts from.